Om Tava Kathamritam Tapta Jeevanam Kavibiriditam Kalmashapaham Shravanamangalam Srimadatatam Bhuvigrinanti ye Bhurida Janaha. So we were discussing Sri Ramakrishna's conversations which took place on 26th October 1885. In 1886, on August 15th, he passed away. He entered into Mahasamadhi. So this was just about 8 months, 7, 8 months before that. So the topic, this is the last part of the conversation that took place on that day. And the conversation is about doing good to mankind. What does it mean by doing good to mankind? Selfless work and purity of character. That is the heading that has been given. So, Master Masha has given this heading, doing good to mankind, ordinary people, selfless work and purity of character. These are the topics that will be discussed in this last para of the conversation. Now, Sri Ramakrishna says, if someone he's addressing M and all the other people who have assembled there, who have come to Dakshineshwar. So if someone is pure in character, he thinks only of God. Now, what do we mean by pure in character? This is even an important thing. The standards of purity vary from place to place, from person to person. So in different cultures, there are different standards of purity. Now, when Sri Ramakrishna says, if someone is pure in character, what does he mean? What kind of character does he imply? So, according to Vedanta, a character is supposed to be pure if you are less gross. As I told you, in Vedanta, all human beings are made of a combination of sattva, rajas, and tamas. So, these three gunas, which with the help of which Prakriti shapes the character or the nature of every person, every human being, every animal, and everything inanimate or animate. They are nothing but a combination of these three gunas. Whether you look at it from a gross point of view or from a subtle point of view. These three gunas, in various permutations and combinations, are responsible for varieties of human beings, and their character also varies according to the predominance of gunas in them. So when you say someone is pure in character, or when Sri Ramakrishna says, if someone is pure in character, he thinks only of God. He likes nothing else. Some people are born with pure sattva because of their past actions. So it implies that people who have sattva as their predominant nature or predominant quality, such people are pure in character. What do we mean by sattva? Sattva means the more sattvic one is, the less gross he is. As I told you, we always discuss from the point of view of the different levels of existence or the different koshas, the Annamaya Atma, the Pranamaya Atma, the Manomaya Atma, the Vijnanamaya Atma, and the Anandamaya Atma or the Anandamaya Kosha. So, all these different levels of existence, if we exist, we are predominantly sattvic in nature, that implies that we have a nature which makes us think of higher things of life, more subtle things of life. We are subtle in our approach to life. We live more on the subtle plane of existence. We are more comfortable in the subtle plane of existence rather than the gross. So when you say a person is not pure, means he is less worldly. He is less attached to the things of the world, the gross things of the world. So there is no discrepancy in this idea of sattva. The more sattvic you are, the more you identify your personality with the higher aspects of your nature, that is Vijnanamay Kosha and Anandamay Kosha. These are the levels of the buddhi. The, the buddhi, when it is highly developed, when more of consciousness, when we identify, when I say we identify with a certain level of consciousness, that means our consciousness, pure consciousness, is reflected more in the Vijnanamay Kosha and the Anandamay Kosha, the higher koshas. If it is reflected more in the Annamay and the Pranamay Kosha, then we are not much different from animals. Because in animals, they live predominantly at the level of the gross. So purity and impurity just means that you are more subtle, you prefer to live more in the plane of Vijnanamay Kosha and Anandamay Kosha, where the least touch of worldliness irritates you, or maybe it suffocates you, or it binds you. Tamas always binds. Rajas also binds, but less. Rajas is necessary to graduate to the level of sattva. So people are having these different gunas, three gunas in different combinations. Some people are predominantly tamasic, some people are predominantly sattvic, some are predominantly sattvic. But there is a combination. Not that person who is sattvic doesn't have a little of rajas or tamas. They have it. But the influence of rajas and tamas is not as much as the influence of sattva in their life. The personality is basically sattvic. So, Sri Ramakrishna says some people are born with pure sattva because of their past actions, or because of their prarabdha karma. That's why. So the samskaras are such that over a long period of time, after having contemplated, after having used the manomaya kosha and focused on the higher aspects of the mind, that is buddhi, with discrimination between the real and the unreal, what is eternal and what is transient, what is gross, what is subtle. So this kind of discrimination, after having practiced for a long time, Sri Ramakrishna says, one people are born with pure sattva. It's not that they have attained sattva in this life. They can do it, but some people are born sattvic, like Shukadeva. We used to give the example. So such people, they have a tendency right from childhood not to be too much attached. They're pure right from birth. And it is very difficult for them to immerse themselves in worldly activities or worldliness. That has become so natural. Sattva has become so natural with them that they don't get mixed. They don't involve themselves in activities which are tamasic or rajasic. They always prefer sattvic. They prefer satsanga. They prefer the company of sattvic people because the like attracts like. So naturally, by the past actions, by the past good actions, of course, some people are born with pure sattva. Sri Ramakrishna says this because of their past actions. By striving to act selflessly, one finally attains pure sattva. So how should one act so that he or she becomes purely sattvic? So Sri Ramakrishna says selfless action unselfish action. Selfless means unselfish. So, without the thought of self, without selfishness, without the ego, uh, the uh, the raw ego, the ego which helps us, the ego which attaches itself to the lower mind, the reactive mind, and the annamaya kosha and the pranamaya kosha. That is the bad ego or the lower ego. So that lower ego uh, makes us act selfishly. So when we give up that ego and when we raise ourselves with the help of our buddhi, when our mind or the chitta takes the form of the buddhi, then you will find that we start acting selflessly. The selfishness element which was there in all our actions, they they vanish. So we don't act selfishly anymore. So Sri Ramakrishna says one who acts selflessly, they reach a state of pure sattva. So pure sattva, when you say somebody is born sattvic or attains to the state of sattva, that means because of his prarabdha karma, according to Sri Ramakrishna, for a long time, if somebody has acted selflessly, done a lot of unselfish work for the benefit of humanity, for the whole world, then he is born with this pure sattva. He doesn't have to strive to attain sattva. Otherwise, we have to work hard to raise the level of sattva in our life. So then Sri Ramakrishna says there are some people, when sattva is mixed with rajas, the mind is diverted. That means the buddhi becomes, there is more reflection of the consciousness in the mind, in the reactive mind, which is a lower part of our mind. There is less reflection in buddhi, but more reflection in the manas. So then what happens? The sattva, if it is mixed with rajas, the mind gets diverted. It gets diverted to grosser things, lower things, and the purity of the mind is lost. The more pure the mind, the more buddhi it has, the higher it exists, the more sattva there is in the mind. So when you say sattvic mind, he is predominantly acting or using the buddhi to take decisions. He does not depend on manas, the lower mind, which is full of rajas, which is merely reactive or maybe even dull. It may be a tamasic mind also. So mind can be tamasic, mind can be rajasic, and mind can be sattvic. But Sri Ramakrishna says that sattvic mind is a result of good action, unselfish action or selfless action done in some previous births. So a lot of karma, accumulated karma, helps us to become sattvic. That is one thing. Then when sattva is mixed with rajas, what happens? How does a person work? Then one is possessed by the vanity of doing good to the world. Sattvic people, though they have sattva as the predominant character, but they also have a lot of rajas. So they do good work, but they have a lot of ego. So they are possessed and they feel vain. I mean, there is vanity in all their actions. They want to be recognized. They will do good actions, but only if it brings them name and fame. So, vanity of doing good to the world, it becomes a, uh, I mean, they try very hard to do good, but they expect some return. They expect that they will be recognized, they will be, uh, maybe they will be rewarded, or at least they will have some name and fame. So that vanity doesn't go, that ego is still there, though they are motivated by sattva, but the rajas is pulling them down and making them go after name, fame, and all these things. So Sri Ramakrishna says it's difficult for an ordinary person to do good to the world. But however, there is no harm in working selflessly to do good. So he says nishkama karma, or those things which we do without any expectation of return, without expecting any name and fame, quietly trying to help people out of a sense of worship or a sense of respect or a sense of compassion, even some with a sense of compassion, if we work, but at the same time we do not expect any return. We do the work selflessly because we have to do, because of the pure sattva which is predominating in our mind. We always feel like doing good. We don't feel like harming anybody or doing any bad action and depriving somebody of anything. So it's very good for a person to try to work in this way, but it isn't possible for everybody to work selflessly. That's what Sri Ramakrishna is saying. It's very, very difficult. Of course, everybody has to work. Only a few can give up work altogether. That is only sattvic, purely sattvic people. They live mostly in the level of buddhi. So they are incapable of even working. But it is very, very rare. Sri Ramakrishna is warning us. For most of us, we have a lot of rajas and tamas mixed, and we have to carefully and gradually get over that tamas and rajas and have more and more sattva in our actions, in our thinking. But a few of them, so Sri Ramakrishna says, it is for possible that they live pure sattvic lives. Pure sattva is found only in a very few. But when a person works selflessly, the quality of sattva mixed with rajas gradually turns into pure sattva. So for majority of good people, Sri Ramakrishna is saying that that doesn't mean just because there are few people, very, very few people who can be 100% sattvic. Still, people who have a little bit of rajas mixed with sattva, if they continue to do good works and without any expectation of return, selflessly or with unselfishness, the actions themselves, though they may be motivated by some rajas, still they will gradually make a person sattvic. It is only when one has developed pure sattva that he realizes God through his grace. And the essential condition of experiencing God or becoming one with pure consciousness is that we have to make our mind so transparent and so pure and pure sattvic by doing unselfish work, by doing japa, by doing prayer, by doing sadhana. All the sadhana, the effect of all sadhana is to make the mind more and more sattvic, so that by the grace of God, if the once the mind is sattvic, then the reflection of the consciousness in the mind, that is buddhi, becomes very, very bright. And that's why they say Shuddha Man, Shuddha Buddhi, Shuddha Atma Ek. So the pure mind, that is a pure sattvic mind, the pure sattvic buddhi and pure, and the Atman, which is by nature pure. So the consciousness, when it reflects in the buddhi, and the buddhi is absolutely sattvic, not even a tinge of rajas is there, then you will find that the reflection of that consciousness is so bright that it is overwhelmed by the consciousness and the grossness goes away. And that is what God realization is through His grace. An ordinary person can't understand the state of pure sattva. So, because most of us have a little bit of rajas and tamas mixed with pure sattva, we are not able to even conceive of the pure sattvic state. Hem was one devotee. He once said to me, "Well, my dear priest," because they used to call him the priest. Sri Ramakrishna was the working as a priest of the Kali temple. So him, maybe one of his acquaintance said, "Well, my dear priest, isn't the aim of life to earn name and fame in the world? Don't you think so?" So because his mind was full of rajas, perhaps he said that, and he made this remark. So he says, unless one is sattvic, people can't have God realization as the only goal of life. They will have some lesser goal. But because of sattva, more sattva and less rajas, perhaps they have a desire to earn some name and fame in the world by doing good works, of course, not by doing evil works. But still, they cannot understand the state of pure sattva. So, what pure sattva is, to understand that, Sri Ramakrishna says, is very difficult for a ordinary person. Now we come to the next chapter. The next day, that is 27th October, Sri Ramakrishna with Narendra, Dr. Sarkar, Girish Ghosh and other devotees. Joyful conversation. That is the first chapter. The joy of devotional music and in Samadhi. So the next day at 5:30, Tuesday, 27th October 1885, Narendra, Dr. Mahendralal Sarkar, Shyam Bose, Girish, Dr. Dukari, the younger Naren, Choto Naren, Rakhal, M and others have come. The doctor feels Sri Ramakrishna's pulse and prescribes medicine. Thakur talks about his pain and takes the medicine. After that, the doctor says, "Now talk with Shyam Babu and I will leave." Sri Ramakrishna and a devotee ask him, "Would you like to hear a song?" Now, Dr. Sarkar is there, but Sri Ramakrishna tells him about his pain, about his symptoms, and also takes the medicines which he has prescribed. After that, the doctor is in a hurry to go. So he says, "I am taking your leave. You talk with Shyam Babu," that is Shyam Bose, who was there, "and you talk with Shyam Babu and others. I will leave." Sri Ramakrishna and a devotee asked the doctor, "Would you like to hear a song?" Doctor, though he was not very devotional by nature, externally, he didn't believe in bhakti and did not believe in many things in the concept of avatara also. But at the same time, he used to love the songs, the beautiful songs sung very emotionally with full of spiritual fervor. So Sri Ramakrishna asks, and a devotee, both of them ask, "Would you like to hear a song?" Because some songs were they were planning to sing some songs and they knew Dr. Sarkar liked these songs. So he says, so they ask him, they want him to continue to stay here. Sri Ramakrishna especially loved this doctor because he knew he was a genuine soul, though he was an atheist. But at the same time, he knew that his heart is full of spiritual. The inside of doctor is full of spirituality, but externally is not expressing himself or not is not accepting many things, and he is behaving like an atheist. But he knows that once somebody starts singing songs, he tends to become emotional and get spiritually inspired. So the doctor says, now is telling Sri Ramakrishna, "You become so emotional. You have to keep your feelings under control." Now, doctor was one who loved to hear the songs, but he did not make a show of emotion. Many people used to just show their emotions, show their ecstasy, show the divine joy when the songs were being sung. But the doctor somehow had a capacity not to express his feeling, and he could be very unemotional. And he believed, according to homeopathy, perhaps becoming too much of emotional would harm Sri Ramakrishna and aggravate the disease he had. So he says, "You become emotional if somebody sings. So you have to keep your feelings under control." But he didn't realize that the emotions which Sri Ramakrishna experienced, the spiritual ecstasy, had nothing to do with human emotions. It's not the ordinary joy of a worldly devotee or a person. We can't even conceive of that sattvic joy or sattvic bliss which Sri Ramakrishna experienced when he heard these songs. So the doctor sits down. Anyway, he sits down. Narendra begins to sing. Especially Narendra used to sing so beautifully that Dr. Sarkar used to appreciate or love hearing him sing. So that when Sri Ramakrishna tells him that, "Would you not like to hear a song?" then he sits down. He wanted to leave, but then he agrees to sit. So doctor sits down. Narendra begins to sing in a sweet voice to the accompaniment of tanpura, a string drone, and mridanga, that is a drum. So he sings, "Wonderful and infinite is this world of yours, this universe, a treasury of beauty." This is the translation of that Bengali song. It's perhaps the from the it's a Brahmo song, because Brahmos had this. Uh, Most of the Brahmo songs tried to appreciate the divinity which they saw in nature. So when they saw the wondrous stars and the planets and the wonderful nature around them, they used to compose beautiful songs which expressed the divinity of God, the God's divine God's divinity through these natural, uh, the through nature. So wonderful and infinite is this world of yours, this universe, a treasury of beauty. This is what the song says. The stars shine like a necklace of thousands of gems. Innumerable are the moons and suns. The earth luxuriates with a wealth of grain, and full indeed is your storehouse. So the whole world, as it were, is a wonderful home, a wonderful place where the glory of the Lord is expressed through the suns, the moons, like a wonderful necklace. They're adorning the infinite reality. That is what the song is trying to express. The earth is full of grains, and our storehouse of God is full of grains. That's what. O great Lord, countless are the people who ceaselessly sing your praise. So that is one song. Then he sings a second song. In the dense darkness, O mother, Nibida Adare Mator Chamakeo Rupa Rashi. That is the Bengali song. Nibida Adhare Mago. O mother, in the dense darkness. This is a song about Kali. In the beginning, the first song was about the formless God, uh, where divinity is oozing through the wonderful, the splendorous nature around us. Whereas the second song is about mother, because by this time, Swamiji had already started learning a lot of songs about the Divine Mother. In the beginning, true to the Brahmo traditions, they would not accept Mother Kali. They would only worship the formless God and worship God in and through nature. So all their songs were based on the wondrous, the splendor of nature. Whereas at the request of Sri Ramakrishna, Naren managed to learn quite a few songs on mother, and this was one of them. So in dense darkness, O mother, your formless beauty sparkles. And so the yogi meditates in the dark mountain cave. Nibida adhare mator chamakyo rupa rashi. Tai jogi dhyana dhore hoye giri guhavasi. So that is the song, first two lines of the song. So yogi meditates in the dark mountain cave. There is a wonderful idea which the poet is trying to convey through this song. In the dense darkness, Ma Kali, the formless beauty, Mother Kali, though she has a form, the dense darkness which we see at midnight in a dark mountain cave, the yogi meditates there, and he says the formless beauty of Mother which sparkles in that cave, dark mountain cave. The idea is that human, they say guha, the place where we meditate is nothing but a cave. So in that cave, a bright light is always shining. That's one of the meditations which Indian tradition teaches us, that there is ignorance in the heart. There is ignorance in our buddhi. Our buddhi has been darkened by tamas and rajas. So when sattva comes, when the divinity shines, there is bright light. The formless beauty sparkles there. The formless beauty of Mother, the Ishta, whom we should be meditating in the dark cave of the heart. Our cave of our heart, because we are gross, because we are still attached to the world, there is lot of ignorance, and darkness symbolizes ignorance. So that ignorance can go only when the formless beauty, the light of the formless beauty of Mother Kali shines in that heart. And just as yogi meditates in the dark mountain cave, so also in the dark mountain cave, it is symbolic that one should meditate on the bright, effulgent incarnation or Ishta or the mother. We should meditate so that she removes the darkness of ignorance in our heart. In the lap of infinite darkness, on the waves of the great silence, eternal peace and joy float without end. So even the darkness, which symbolizes Mother Kali is black, which symbolizes the infinite dark space which is surrounding us. If you go out in the night, and if it is a star, if there are no stars, if it's totally dark because of dark clouds, and there's no moon, it's Amavasya day, you will find pitch darkness. So that infinite darkness, in the lap of that infinite darkness, on the waves of great silence. So whenever you, on a dark night, if you meditate on a mountain cave or inside the mountain cave, where it is totally dark inside, it's totally dark outside. So if a yogi meditates there, that lap of, he's sitting on the lap of infinite darkness, as it were, and the waves of great silence, because the yogi's idea is to cut off all sound, enjoy the great silence where eternal peace and joy float without an end. That's the idea of Kali. As you meditate on nothingness, or if you meditate on the dark, vast ocean, or the vast space which is around us, and if there, when you meditate, you experience a great silence, eternal peace and joy are floating on that silence. So that is one wonderful way of expressing the internal darkness which we experience because of our uh, bondage to the world. So that bondage can be removed. We can become purely sattvic. The bright light of sattva will shine if the darkness of ignorance is removed by the grace of Mother, who is sitting with her formless beauty and sparkling with that formless beauty. At the lotus of your fear dispelling feet flashes the lightning of love, while loud and earth shaking laughter issues from your dazzling face. So, this is one of the visions perhaps the poet had, that the lotus feet of the mother, they, uh, because of the flashes, the lightning of love. So, in the dark sky, when there is lightning, when there is a mm, when there is sharp lightning in the dark space, very clouded uh, sky, the sky is full of dark, deep, dark clouds, and there is lightning. The poet feels that the lightning of love issues forth, flashes from the feet of the Divine Mother on whom he is trying to meditate, on the yogi is trying to meditate. And while loud and earth shaking laughter issues from your dazzling face. So, Mother Kali is the destroyer of anything that is worldly. It's deeply symbolic. This concept of Kali is so difficult to understand, and uh, the poets have written so many poems trying to express the inexpressible bright light which shines in the dark sky. Just as the lightning shines, the vision of Ma Kali, or the consciousness, when it comes and uh, overwhelms a sadhaka at the end of his sadhana. So he sees so many visions, and these visions or these conceptions about Mother Kali, though she is dark, the earth shaking, loud and earth shaking laughter issues from your dazzling face. Now, these are some of the visions they experience, because Swami Vivekananda also wrote the beautiful poem Kali the Mother. On one side, she is the calm, compassionate, and wonderful, loving mother. But on the other side, you will find She is destroying the darkness. She is destroying all the gross worldliness from people. And that she does, when she does, the lightning of love shines forth. That is the idea. So it is a very uh, mm, nice way of expressing the reality of Mother Kali and meditation on Mother Kali. That is the concept behind all these deities, Mother Kali, Durga, and all the deities which Vedanta or Hinduism has meditated upon for centuries. They have a deeper meaning behind every all of these iconography and all the different aspects of the Divine Mother, Durga, Kali, Chandi, and there are so many. Uh, but the concept behind these particular forms of God, these particular deities, is very important. And some of the songs try to express that feeling. Then the doctor says to M, this is dangerous for him, this singing. If he goes into ecstasy, it could be dangerous. The doctor is still worried because of Swamiji's singing, wonderful singing. Because Swamiji, whenever he sang, Sri Ramakrishna used to go into ecstasy and he used to be lost to this world. He used to go into a divine state. And the doctor felt that if he goes into that divine state and becomes very emotional, then he may aggravate his disease and the throat pain may increase. M asks, Sri Ramakrishna asked M what the doctor said because he was in such a high mood that he did not hear what the doctor was saying. The doctor was telling others that just see that if these songs continue now, if Naren keeps on singing these wonderful songs, then you will find that he will go into ecstasy and it can be dangerous. But Sri Ramakrishna has not heard that. He was so absorbed in the song. So he asked he knew something the doctor is uttering, but he was not sure what he said. So he asked M, who was sitting near, what did the doctor say? M replies, the doctor is afraid that these songs will excite your feelings and bring on samadhi. Even while he speaks, Sri Ramakrishna goes into an ecstatic mood. He was not even listening to the answer of M, what doctor said, because he was so much absorbed in this song that he went into an ecstatic mood. Looking at the doctor with folded hands, he says, no, 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 no. Why should I go into samadhi? So he is saying, don't disturb me. I will not go into samadhi. But at the same time, however, even while saying this, he goes into deep samadhi. He cannot prevent. It was so difficult for Sri Ramakrishna, for others to bring down Sri Ramakrishna from that level of samadhi. It was his natural state. He was always one with Brahman, one with the Divine Mother in that state. And it was with great difficulty that he had to be, his mind had to be brought down to the level of the world so that he can converse. So though he was saying, no, no, why should I go into samadhi? He was just trying to convince the doctor that don't worry, let the singing go on. But at the same time, he was slowly going into that state, which was his natural state. However, even while saying this, he goes into deep samadhi. His body is still, eyes are fixed on the song. The eyes become fixed there because there is no restlessness in the mind. When there is restlessness in the mind, the eyes start wavering, then we look here and there. But when one is focusing intently with concentration, then his eyes become fixed, the body becomes still, absolutely still. They say even the breathing used to stop. And there were so many signs which Dr. Sarkar observed. He was practically dead to the external world. Is the whole mind and the whole consciousness was taken to a different level, and the the lower existence, that is Annamaya Kosha, Pranamaya Kosha, and all the lower states of mind and body and the prana, they were as it were, they had become inert because all the consciousness was withdrawn from that. And that's why he stopped breathing many times, the heart stopped beating. So all these things used to happen very regularly. And M doctors thinks that if these things happen regularly, then he will fall sick, he will aggravate his disease. Speechless and unaware of the world outside, he resembles a wooden statue. So this is the feeling M got when Sri Ramakrishna entered into Samadhi. He felt that how can a person suddenly withdraw his consciousness and focus his consciousness on the Divine Mother, and at the same time the body and other things practically became like a wooden statue. They were motionless, as if the person had died. So that was the nature of his samadhi. But these are mysterious happenings, mysterious uh, states of samadhi which are possible only for Ishwar Kotis or avatars. His mind, intellect, and ego are all turned inward. So this is what one sadhaka, every sadhaka has tried to do. Our mind, our buddhi, and ego all are facing have been turned outward, and they are being used, or they are being uh, exploited by nature. Prakriti makes the mind, intellect, and ego go towards it, and it tries to attract. That's why we call it Maya. So, Prakriti has a tendency to drag down the mind, intellect, and ego. But when it is turned inward, as it happens here in Sri Ramakrishna's case, then Sri Ramakrishna becomes unaware of the outside world, because the mind, intellect, and ego are all turned 180 degrees. It just goes in the opposite direction, and it goes towards the, it turns inward. So that's why M says he is no longer the same person who was just now talking with everybody. And when he is in this state, Narendra starts singing another song with his melodious voice. What wondrous beauty, what an enchanting face I see. The Lord of my soul has entered my humble hut, and the spring of love wells forth. O Lord, beloved of my heart, what treasure shall I offer you? Accept my soul, accept my life, whatever I have, accept all that from me. Now, this is another Brahmo song, perhaps, because they are praising nature. The wondrous beauty of nature reminds them of the enchanting face of the Lord whom they are worshipping. It's not that the Lord has been personified, the God has come in the form of an avatar. They don't need that, and they don't even need a personal God. They just say this wondrous beauty is enough for us, and the sincere yearning or the sincere desire to attain to that reality will make us see that reality, at least even if it is uh, partly seen in Prakriti. So the Lord of my soul has entered my humble hut, and the spring of love wells forth. Humble hut means the darkness of ignorance which enveloped the hut or the heart. When the Lord, the soul, Lord of the soul is apparently the individual soul is covered with a thick layer of darkness, or it is there is total darkness there. That's why when the Lord of the soul, that is our Ishta, enters the heart, the spring of love wells forth. It comes out of the heart, the darkness of the heart. O Lord, beloved of my heart, what treasure shall I offer you? Accept my soul, accept my life, whatever I have, accept all that from me. So the prayer is that, oh Lord, everything is yours. If I give you some kind of offering, that will be insignificant, because it is, I'm taking it from you and giving it back to you. So I can't offer you any treasure like the kings and the rich people used to do. I can't do that, because I know that I have nothing else to offer. I am uh, not a worldly person, so I don't have these things. But at least accept my soul, my dedication, my yearning, accept my life, whatever prana and the body you have given me. I have got this by your grace. So you take that, use it in whichever way you like. Whatever I have, whatever I think I possess, I am giving it all, surrendering it all to you. That is the next song. And then again he sings, "O Lord," I'll just read this song and then we will try to have some question answers. So we have some 10 minutes now. I'll just read this whole song and we'll try to understand. O gracious Lord, what happiness can there be in life if the bee of my soul is not lost forever in the lotus of your feet? The feet are compared to lotus. The poet here says the natural place for a bee is not to hum around and go around. It gets immense joy when it uh, goes into a lotus and tries to sip honey from that. That is the highest bliss for a bee. So the bee of my soul, the poet is comparing the wonderful feet, lotus of the feet of mother or the Lord, any Lord, any our Ishta, the personal God whose feet is like the lotus. And if the nectar, I mean, the nectar which is there in that, uh, inspires the bee of my soul, to go after that wonderful treasure. Because otherwise, what happiness is there? The bee can be, of course, mix in the world, can sit on dirty things as well of the world, the gross way. But its highest happiness is when it's it is sipping the honey. So similarly, when my mind, the bee of my soul, is dedicated or crushed by the world, I have to take it out and settle it down on the lotus feet, in the lotus of your feet. What can I gain from limitless wealth if I do not seek the gem supreme? And the poet goes on to say, there is a supreme gem lying within my heart, within the heart of my Ishta, and I have to gain that. So even if I have limitless wealth in this world, hmm, if I, that supreme gem which is there, that gem I have to seek, and that is more important to me than all the wealth of the world, because it cannot be compared with this wonderful gem supreme. I do not wish to behold a child's tender face if there I cannot catch a glimpse of your loving countenance. He says the poet is trying to get rid of Maya. Normally, people are attached to their children, to their grandchildren. So, the child's tender face is a ploy or is a part of Maya to attract the person's attention. So, he says, I do not wish to behold. That means he doesn't want to become a worldly person and have any relation with any human beings. He says, I catch a glimpse of your loving face, and then that is enough for me. I don't want to see the faces of ordinary mortals or a child, even a child's tender face. It no longer attracts me because I know what is real, what is giving me unlimited joy. So that glimpse of your loving countenance, face, as I meditate, as I do my sadhana, I can catch a glimpse of your loving countenance. And that is enough, more than beholding a child's tender face, which is often done through attachment. Now, moonlight has no meaning for me. I see darkness everywhere unless in that moonlight I behold your loving face. So, this poet is so obsessed with the beauty of the Lord whom he is worshipping that he doesn't even consider the moonshine in a dark starry sky. If the moon shines brightly, there's a beautiful moonlight. He says, moonlight has no meaning for me. I see the darkness everywhere unless in that moonlight I behold your loving face. So, even if the moonlight is there for all ordinary people, he says, once I have seen your loving face, it is far, far superior to moonlight. So, the moonlight will no longer attract me. I just want to have a vision of the Ishta or the face of the Lord whom I am worshipping. These are the wonderful emotions and the high spiritual states which these poets attained. And from that height, from those heights, they wrote this wonderful poetry or wonderful songs. So even The untainted gold of the chaste wife's love is stained unless it holds the gem of your love. So he is giving even more importance than a wife or a child. He says, all these people, definitely I love them, but not as much as I love you, because I know all the love we shower upon these people, like the wife and the tender face of the child, they're all going to vanish. But if we love God with the same intensity as we love our child and our wife, then uh, the gem of love, that your love, I can uh, will be stained unless unless by your grace uh, the gem of your love is present in all these loves, all these smaller likes and dislikes which we have in life. We may like so many things, but if the love of God is missing, then that love becomes insignificant. That is why once one old devotee came to Sri Ramakrishna and he said, I want to meditate on God, but I love my grandson so much, I can't do it. So Sri Ramakrishna gives him a wonderful idea. He said, whenever the thought of your grandson comes, you don't try to remove it from your mind. Try to imagine that inside the heart of your grandson, or his representation, is Gopala himself, Lord Krishna himself, who has come as your. Try to see the God in him. Try to worship the God in him, and then you will find that you will be happy, you will be content, and you will be full of joy and bliss, higher joy and bliss. So he says, "O Lord, doubt bites me endlessly, a deadly serpent whose venom dilutes my love for you." The poet is saying that I love the Lord, but somehow the deadly serpent whose venom, that is by doubt. Doubt is the venom, doubt is the snake. Whenever we have Sanchayatma Vinashyati, the Gita, there is a phrase which says Sanchayatma Vinashyati. Once doubt comes, once your faith lessens, faith weakens, then it is like a deadly serpent, and we suddenly feel we are lost. It is faith that keeps us alive. It's faith in the Lord which makes our life meaningful. If that faith goes away, doubt comes now and then it can be very painful. It is like a deadly serpent whose venom dilutes my love for you. The love also decreases if I keep on doubting our Ishta. What more can I say, O my Lord? You are the precious jewel of my heart and abode of my joy. So the poet concludes by saying, I can't express it anymore. I am feeling whatever I am feeling, I have expressed through this poem. And I can't say more, but you are that precious jewel of my heart, the abode of my joy. So my heart, the poet accepts here or says here that the uh, the heart where the Lord stays is as precious as the jewel, is a very costly jewel, and the heart is also the abode of my joy, because as you see a jewel and you become happy, so also the Lord who stays in his abode in the heart, he is the abode, that is the abode of joy, because Lord is the source of all bliss, consciousness is the source of all bliss, Ananda, Chit, Sat, Chit, Ananda, all existence, eternal consciousness gives rise to eternal joy, which is Ananda. Ananda is not Sukha. It's not ordinary joy. It's a highest kind of joy. So when the doctor hears the line, even the untainted gold of a chaste wife's love, his eyes fill with tears and he exclaims, Aha. Then Narendra sings another song. So it's a very big song. So we will continue it in the next class. If there is some question, you can ask in the chat. Let me just see the chat. Yeah. The question now is, as far as we know, Vivekananda understood Sri Ramakrishna more than anyone else. According to him, it is a lot harder to understand Sri Ramakrishna than we understand God, the Absolute. He concluded, even if you might form an idea of the limits of Brahmagyana, the knowledge of the Absolute, you could not do the same with the unfathomable depths of his mind. Thousands of Vivekananda may spring forth through one gracious glance of his eyes. Sri Ramakrishna is not exactly what the ordinary followers have comprehended him to be. Such a statement came from an authoritative source, Swami Vivekananda. Please amplify. Now, here, when he says the idea of Brahman which can be achieved, yesterday, if you remember, we were discussing about Swami Brahmananda, where he makes a mention that after Nirvikalpa Samadhi, which is supposed to be the highest state in Advaita, he says the spiritual life begins. So don't think that the experience of Brahman exhausts the wonderful experiences we can have, which can be totally different or totally higher than these. That is what Brahmananji also said, that Sri Ramakrishna also said. So Sri Ramakrishna, it is difficult to, as Swamiji says, difficult to understand Sri Ramakrishna because he was a man of different spiritual modes, unprecedented in the history of the world. Most of the prophets or most of the acharyas came to show us or to explain to us one path which led to one goal, even if it is the highest goal, that of Advaita. It was just one path, it was just one sect. In India, there are hundreds of sects. Each path leads to a goal which is equally true, equally valid for that particular path. And Sri Ramakrishna had a unique genius. Why Swamiji says that you may understand the idea of Brahman or maybe you may experience it, but to understand Sri Ramakrishna and his wonderful moods, spiritual moods, which made him experience the final spiritual experiences of all the sects of the world and also different religions, which was unique in the uh, history of the world. No, no previous sadhaka, there is no record that they have practiced different religions, different sects within Hinduism by turns and attained a kind of realization. So that is the most authentic way of, I mean, his experiences were so authentic. So Swamiji says this, that many times Swamiji, after getting one or two experiences, he thought this is all. But when he heard Sri Ramakrishna, the wonderful words that came out of his Sri Ramakrishna's mouth, his Guru's mouth, and day in and day out, he used to come with wonderful uh, interpretations of the visions he had. So he explained those visions. He not only said that I saw it, but also explained what is the significance of all these visions. And there were hundreds of such visions. So that is why, in that sense, he is far superior in the sense to understand God in a limited way, in one way, is very easy. Because the God of Brahmo Samaj, the God of Christianity, each conception of God varies from religion to religion, sect to sect. But to understand one of these concepts is easy. But to understand Sri Ramakrishna, who is the sum total of all the different concepts, and plus he is something more. He also experienced the state of Vijnana. So, in that sense, he said he is far greater, and through his grace, because he embodied in himself the power of Brahman, the power of Satchidananda, and the Shakti associated with it, that he could convey these ideas. He could not only experience but convey these ideas to the whole world. So, in that way, uh, Swamiji has made this statement that he is far superior. It is very difficult to understand why he did all these actions. Shivagana Jiv Seva, which we discussed yesterday, and all the other ideals which he has introduced to before humanity. These are all wonderful contributions of Sri Ramakrishna. So it's very difficult, even if we understand one aspect of Sri Ramakrishna, it may be difficult to understand all the aspects. Then there is one more question, I'll answer that. What is the way through which sattva percentage of one's nature can be increased? It is very simple. Sri Ramakrishna himself said one is selfless work. The one of the ways is not work with ambition, pride, and with lot of worldly motive. If one can do spontaneously work without any attachment, without any uh, desire for something higher, without a desire for reward, then it is one way. The other way is, of course, the traditional way, where you can even uh, attain to pure sattva by continuous reproduction, continuous repeating of the mantra. The bija in the mantra has the capacity to destroy the darkness of ignorance caused by tamas and rajas. But it has to be persistently done. Whatever we do, whatever sadhana we do, if we do it persistently, then you will find that the percentage of rajas and tamas in our personality becomes less and less, and pure sattva remains. So I think we don't have any more questions. So I'll take your leave. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Tat Sat. Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.